Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Bible in a Year. My name is Natalie, and today we are on day 338. Welcome to the channel. I'm so happy that you're here today. I had said in yesterday's video that I was heading back home and that I was crying for most of the day, and it was a very sad day. And over dinner, we managed to finagle away for me to not get on the plane today and to stay a few more days. So I am so thankful for that. I know that the video is going to be a little wonky, but there just isn't, we're not set up for this over here. So just be patient with me for a few days, and let's hear this reading. We're going to be reading out of, for today, 2 Chronicles chapter 9, Nahum chapter 2, and then we're going to close out our day with John chapter 6, verses 22 through 70. I almost forgot. So in yesterday's video also, when I played back, there was the tap, 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 tap of my earring. Sorry, I never wore those before. So let's get into 2 Chronicles chapter 9 and get this day started here in Minnesota. All right, here we go. When the Queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon, she came to test Solomon with hard questions at Jerusalem, with a very great caravan, including camels that bore spices, gold in abundance, and precious stones. When she had come to Solomon, she talked with him about all that was in her heart. And Solomon answered all her questions. There wasn't anything hidden from Solomon which he didn't tell her. When the Queen of Sheba had seen the wisdom of Solomon, the house that he had built, the food of his table, the seating of his servants, the attendance of his ministers, their clothing, his cupbearers and their clothing, and his ascent by which he went up to Yahweh's house, there was no more spirit in her. She said to the king, "It was a true report that I heard in my own land of your acts and of your wisdom. However, I didn't believe their words until I came, and my eyes had seen it. And behold, half of the greatness of your wisdom wasn't told me. You exceed the fame that I heard. Happy are your men, and happy are these your servants who stand continually before you and hear your wisdom. Blessed be Yahweh your God, who delighted in you and set you on his throne to be king for Yahweh your God, because your God loved Israel, to establish them forever. Therefore he made you king over them, to do justice and righteousness." She gave the king 120 talents of gold, spices in great abundance, and precious stones. There was never before such spice as the Queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. The servants of and the servants of Solomon, who brought gold from Ophir, also brought algum trees and precious stones. The king used algum tree wood to make terraces for Yahweh's house and for the king's house, and harps and stringed instruments for the singers. There were none like these seen before in the land of Judah. King Solomon gave to the Queen of Sheba all her desire, whatever she asked, more than that which she had brought to the king. So she turned and went to her own land, she and her servants. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold, in addition to that which the traders and merchants brought. All the kings of Arabia and the governors of the country brought gold and silver to Solomon. King Solomon made 200 large shields of beaten gold. 600 shekels of beaten gold went to one large shield. He made 300 shekels of beaten gold. 300 shekels of gold went to one shield. The king put them in the house of the forest of Lebanon. Moreover, the king made a great throne of ivory and overlaid it with pure gold. There were 6 steps to the throne, with a footstool of gold, which were fastened to the throne, and armrests on either side by the place of the seat, and 2 lions standing beside the armrest. 12 lions stood there on one side, and on the other on 6 steps. There was nothing like it made in any other kingdom. All King Solomon's drinking vessels were of gold, and all the vessels of the house of the forest of Lebanon were of pure gold. Silver was not considered valuable in the days of Solomon. For the king had ships that went to Tarshish with Hiram's servants. Once every 3 years, the ships of Tarshish came bringing gold, silver, ivory, apes, and peacocks. So King Solomon exceeded all the kings of the earth in riches and wisdom. All the kings of the earth sought the presence of Solomon to hear his wisdom, which God had put in his heart. They each brought tribute, vessels of silver, vessels of gold, clothing, armor, spices, horses, and mules every year. Solomon had 4,000 stalls for horses and chariots, and 12,000 horsemen that he stationed in the chariot cities and with the king at Jerusalem. He ruled over all the kings from the river even to the land of the Philistines and to the border of Egypt. The king made silver as common in Jerusalem as stones, and he made cedars to be as abundant as the sycamore trees that are in the lowland. They brought horses for Solomon out of Egypt and out of all the lands. Now the rest of the acts of Solomon, first and last, aren't they written in the history of Nathan the prophet and in the prophecy of Ahiah the Shilonite and in the visions of Iddo the seer concerning Jeroboam the son of Nebat? Solomon reigned in Jerusalem over all Israel 40 years. Solomon slept with his fathers, and he was buried in his father David's city, and Rehoboam, his son, reigned in his place. 4,000 stalls for horses. I am a horse girl. I would be so happy with one stall. I can't even imagine 4,000 stalls for horses. Oh, don't be jealous, don't be jealous, don't be jealous. All right, Nahum chapter 2. He who dashes in pieces has come up against you. Keep the fortress, watch the day, strengthen your waist, fortify your power mightily. For Yahweh restores the excellency of Jacob as the excellency of Israel, for the destroyers have destroyed them and ruined their vine branches. The shield of his mighty men is made red. The valiant men are in scarlet. The chariots flash with steel in the day of his preparation, and the pine spears are banished. The chariots rage in the streets. They rush back and forth in the wide ways. Their appearance is like torches. They run like the lightnings. He summons his picked troops. They stumble on their way. They dash to its wall, and the protective shield is put in place. The gates of the rivers are opened, and the palace is dissolved. It is decreed, she is uncovered. She is carried away, and her servants moan as with the voice of doves beating on their breasts. But Nineveh has been from of old like a pool of water, yet they flee away. Stop, stop, they cry, but no one looks back. Take the plunder of silver, take the plunder of gold, for there is no end of treasure, an abundance of every precious thing. She is empty, void, and waste. The heart melts, the knees knock together, and their bodies and faces have grown pale. Where is the den of the lions and the feeding place of the young lions, where the lion and the lioness walked with the lion's cubs, and no one made them afraid? The lion tore in pieces enough for his cubs, and strangled prey for his lioness, and filled his caves with the kill, and his dens with prey. Behold, I am against you, says Yahweh of armies, and I will burn her chariots in the smoke, and the sword will devour your young lions, and I will cut off your prey from the earth, and the voice of your messengers will no longer be heard. All right, let's move into John chapter 6, 22 through 70. This is the good news of John. All right, on the next day, the multitude that stood on the other side of the sea, that they saw that there was no other boat there except the one in which his disciples had embarked, and that Jesus hadn't entered with his disciples into the boat, but his disciples had gone away alone. However, boats from Tiberias came near to the place where they ate the bread after the Lord had given thanks. When the multitude therefore saw that Jesus wasn't there, nor his disciples, they themselves got into the boats and came to Capernaum, seeking Jesus. When they found him on the other side of the sea, they asked him, "Rabbi, when did you come here?" And Jesus answered them, "Most certainly I tell you, you seek me, not because you saw signs, but because you ate of the loaves and were filled. Don't work for the food which perishes, but for the food which remains to eternal life, which the Son of Man will give to you. For God the Father has sealed him." They said therefore to him, "What must we do that we may work the works of God?" And Jesus answered them, "This is the work of God, that you believe in him whom he has sent." They said therefore to him, "What then do you do for a sign, that we may see and believe you? What work do you do? Our fathers ate the manna in the wilderness. As it is written, he gave them bread out of heaven to eat." And Jesus therefore said to them, "Most certainly I tell you, it wasn't Moses who gave you the bread out of heaven, but my Father gives you the true bread out of heaven. For the bread of God is that which comes down out of heaven and gives life to the world." They said therefore to him, "Lord, always give us this bread." And Jesus said to them, "I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will not be hungry, and whoever believes in me will never be thirsty. But I told you that you have seen me, and yet you don't believe. All those whom the Father gives me will come to me. He who comes to me I will in no way throw out, for I have come down from heaven, not to do my own will, but the will of him who sent me. This is the will of my Father who sent me, that of all he has given to me I should lose nothing, but should raise him up at the last day. This is the will of the one who sent me, that everyone who sees the Son and believes in him should have eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day." The Jews therefore murmured concerning him because he said, "I am the bread which came down out of heaven." They said, "Isn't this Jesus, the son of Joseph, whose father and mother we know? How then does he say, 'I have come down out of heaven'?" Therefore Jesus answered them, "Don't murmur among yourselves. No one can come to me unless the Father who sent me draws him, and I will raise him up in the last day. It is written in the prophets, they will all be taught by God. Therefore, anyone who hears from the Father and has learned comes to me. Not that anyone has seen the Father except he who is from God. He has seen the Father. Most certainly I tell you, he who believes in me has eternal life. I am the bread of life. Your fathers ate the manna in the wilderness, and they died. This is the bread which comes down out of heaven, that anyone may eat of it and not die. I am the living bread which came down out of heaven. If anyone eats of this bread, he will live forever. Yes, the bread which I will give for the life of the world is my flesh." The Jews therefore contended with one another, saying, "How can this man give us his flesh to eat?" And Jesus therefore said to them, "Most certainly I tell you, unless you eat the flesh of the Son of Man and drink his blood, you don't have life in yourselves. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood has eternal life, and I will raise him up at the last day. For my flesh is food indeed, and my blood is drink indeed. He who eats my flesh and drinks my blood lives in me, and I in him. As the living Father sent me, and I live because of the Father, so he who feeds on me will also live because of me. This is the bread which came down out of heaven, not as our fathers ate the manna and died. He who eats this bread will live forever." He said these things in the synagogue, as he taught in Capernaum. Therefore many of his disciples, when they heard this, said, "This is a hard saying. Who can listen to it?" But Jesus, knowing in himself that his disciples murmured at this, said to them, "Does this cause you to stumble? Then what if you would see the Son of Man ascending to where he was before? It is the Spirit who gives life. The flesh profits nothing. The words that I speak to you are spirit and are life. But there are some of you who don't believe." For Jesus knew from the beginning who they were who didn't believe, and who it was who would betray him. He said, "For this cause I have said to you that no one can come to me unless it is given to him by the Father." At this, many of his disciples went back and walked no more with him. Jesus said therefore to the 12, "You don't also want to go away, do you?" And Simon Peter answered him, "Lord, to whom would we go? You have the words of eternal life. We have come to believe and know that you are the Christ, the Son of the living God." Jesus answered them, "Didn't I choose you, the 12, and one of you is a devil?" Now he spoke of Judas, the son of Simon Iscariot, for it was he who would betray him, being one of the 12. So that explains that. I have heard that a lot in the past, of when Jesus said, we say it in communion, we hold up the bread, "This is my body, which is broken for you. Take, eat in remembrance of me." And I've heard in the past that is so, oh no, I can't remember the word. Anyway, it's misunderstood. And he explains it right there. He's talking about the Spirit. And while our bodies are flesh and we do need food and nourishment and everything, he's talking about feeding the Spirit. He feeds the Spirit. He is the bread for our spirit. He is the blood for our spirit. So I just love that one. And then when, you know, he has all these followers and they're like, oh, I'm out. A lot of them leave. Oh, I hope I wouldn't be one of them, because it is pretty radical for the time. And to say it in the synagogue, it's pretty radical. So thank you for coming on back. We're going to have a couple more of these in Minnesota. I'm so glad my kids want me to stay. Oh gosh, I am blessed as a mom. That is for certain. Have the most wonderful day today. Come on back for day 339 if you can stand the camera angle, and I will see you tomorrow. Bye.